see, 97% of the human population will never get to live their dreams. That's 97%. That's a lot. And the reason for that is because they're all realists. Everyone faces reality, and they're comfortable with facing reality. But I'm here to tell you today that that may be the worst decision that you make, being a realist. I don't know if you've ever heard of the saying, you gotta fake it till you make it. Well, this is one of those. And if you've watched a lot of my videos, I'm always a huge advocate for hard work. There's nothing that can substitute that. There's nothing that can replace working hard. But when it comes to this, working hard doesn't even matter, because I know some of the hardest working people that they're realists, and that's the reason why they're stuck. They're stuck in the rat race because they're realists. They have to face reality all the time. And when you think about it, what reality tells you is that you're limited. Reality tells you you're not good enough. Reality tells you you don't look the part. Reality tells you you're not at a social class that you need to be in for you to even be part of this group. Reality tells you you only make a certain amount of money every year, so you can't afford to live your dream or travel the world or whatever it is that you love to do. That's what reality tells you. And no matter how hard you work, no matter how early you get up to go earn that dollar, if you face reality, you're gonna be stuck. And that's why I'm making this video today. What sets apart the 3% and the other 97% is because is that 3% allow themselves to dream, and then they wake up and go after that dream. Whereas 97% of the world, we always succumb to reality. And when you face reality constantly, what you succumb to is the norm, the social norm. They tell you, well, you got to go to school. You got to have a 20-year career or so going to school. And then you can get a degree, and then you can maybe go for your master's or go to medical school or law school, whatever, and expect to have a nice job. I tell you what, if you're still in college or you're just about to get into college, I want you to go ask a college graduate, somebody who went to a good school, and ask them what do they have to show for it. Now, I'm not saying, don't go to school. Actually, I'm a huge advocate for education, but there are other means to educate yourself. It's not just standard academics. You can always educate yourself in different areas. But, for those who follow that standard norm, which is go to school, earn a degree, and then expect to find a job, that's not the case at all. That's not even true. There's a lot of college graduates right now who are kicking themselves in the ass for doing that, because what they have to show for all that learning is just a huge debt. I have a lot of friends who are way over their heads in debt. They owe over $100,000 in student loans. You know how many years they have to work just to pay that off? It's like they're going to be the first 5-10 years of their working career is going to be to pay off a fucking student loan. And this is the reality. This is the reality of things. When you follow that social norm and you face reality, that's what you get. But I'm here to tell you today that if you want to get into that 3% bracket, you gotta stop facing reality, because reality tells you everything that limits you. Okay? You gotta see it and then be it. I'm a huge believer in visualizing things. If you want something or someone, visualize having that thing or that person, and eventually it will be yours. Now, I'm not saying just dream or fantasize all day and not do anything about it. You're not helping your cause with that. But if you allow yourself to dream and then you put some work towards that, it's impossible for you not to achieve that goal or that dream. That's what I believe in. I mean, think of great men that's been before you. Think of a guy like Steve Jobs. You know, we know Steve Jobs as this huge part of history now. But you think Steve Jobs was always that? If you knew him 30, 40 years ago, not even 30, 40 years ago, if you knew him about 20, 30 years ago, he was a hippie. If you saw Steve Jobs on the street, you may think he was homeless, because this guy was a huge hippie, a drug head, who, if you saw someone like that today, you would just think to yourself, he ain't going nowhere. He's never gonna achieve shit because of the way he presented himself. He didn't wear shoes. He wouldn't bathe. You know, that was the kind of person Steve Jobs was. And until later into his 20s, he didn't even know what the fuck he wanted to do. He went on a pilgrimage kind of thing to India just to figure out what life is. But we know this man today as a huge leader in the tech industry. And that's because back then, if you saw Steve Jobs, you would not ever even picture that some 20, 30 years later, he's going to be leading the most important company or the wealthiest company in the world. That's exactly what happened. And so when you think about it, you think if Steve Jobs had faced reality and thought, well, this is what life throws at me, so I'm just going to accept it and not do anything about it, he would not be able to build the legacy that he was able to build. Another great example, Nelson Mandela. Mandela was born in a village. He was a village boy, for those who don't know. And, you know, eventually in his life, he went on to actually build a successful career as a lawyer. He was a well-to-do lawyer. But that was not his mission, according to him. That didn't satisfy him. Being a successful lawyer didn't satisfy him, because at the end of the day, he still was a subhuman in his own country. He still was a fugitive. He still was a half human. He didn't have complete rights like everybody else, and that was his reality. But he was like, fuck that, I don't want to be in this reality. And that's when he became a leader to change things. And you know what he got in place of that? A life sentence. He was sentenced to life in prison, in which he did 27 years of that sentence. Just imagine that. And in those 20, when you think of somebody who has a life sentence, I don't know what prison life is like, but just imagine it from the outside. At some point, you're broken. Like, as a man, you're gonna be broken at some point. Now imagine this guy stayed in for 27 years, and he still visualized one day being a free man, and one day the crazy situation in South Africa would change. And that's exactly what happened. And for those of you who don't know, Nelson Mandela casted his first vote as a recognized citizen in his 70s. Imagine that. If you're watching this video, you probably have the freedom to go vote and elect an official, whereas a guy like Nelson Mandela didn't get that privilege until he hit 70 years old. And that was the same year he became president, the first black president of South Africa. Just let that sink in for a little bit. So the point I'm trying to make is, if these men, as you've read about them, if they succumb to reality and they said, okay, this is my reality and that's what I'm going to accept, you think they would be where they were, or they would be able to put up that legacy that we know today? Fuck no. But these men were visionaries. They were able to visualize what they want. They saw reality and they didn't like it. They didn't want what they saw, and they weren't satisfied with what reality was giving them. So you know what it did? They created their own that's sort of what I'm trying to point out today, that if you really want to make your dreams happen, if you really want to get to that place where you're living your dreams and living a successful life and making a difference, making a change in this world, on this planet, you got to be a visionary. You got to see it. You got to see it. You can't. It can't be the other way around, where seeing is believing. No, fuck it. Believe first, and then you can live that dream. You got to see it first, even when it's not there. And that's precisely what faith is. For those of you who are religious, I'm a Christian, a huge sinner, by the way, but I'm a Christian nonetheless. And I've been able to build my faith over the years. Whereas if I wanted something, if I wanted to go after something, I have some level of faith that, okay, I'm going to try this and hopefully it works out. But I always visualize things. As I'm speaking to you now, I can tell you that every dream that I thought about 3 years ago, I'm living them today. But 3 years ago, I visualized it first. So you gotta allow yourself to dream. You gotta allow yourself to see things and not think they're just all bullshit, that you have to come back to reality. If you come back to reality and you always live by the rules that reality throws at you, you're gonna be stuck, my friend. So I'm telling you today, allow yourself to dream. Allow yourself to see things and then go after it. That's only when hard work will make sense. If you obey the rules of reality, no matter how hard you work, you're not going anywhere. So you gotta allow yourself to dream. You gotta allow yourself to see things and then work towards becoming those things. Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, either be a successful business owner, some huge crush that you have, or someone you don't think you can ever become a part of their lives or them a part of your life. The first part is just see it. You gotta see it first, and then actually start believing that this can happen, and watch shit happens for you. That's my message for you today. And I hope that after watching this video, that you just sit for a moment and think of everything I just said, and then think of your situation and see if you can make some changes. I promise you. Come back and watch this video 3 years later, doing what I ask you to do, and then see